Phoenix is at 105 degrees. Minneapolis is in a full blizzard, and Raleigh is hours away from a level 4 tornado warning, and every single one of those is happening right now because of the exact same storm. This low pressure just dropped to 979 millibars. That is the equivalent of a strong tropical storm sitting over the Midwest in the middle of March. And it explains why this thing is producing things we almost never see from a single system. And somewhere along the I-95 corridor between Florence and Richmond tomorrow afternoon, conditions are going to be more dangerous than anything the East Coast has seen in years. Drop your city in the comments right now so I can tell you exactly what window you are in. Stick with me, because at the 5-minute mark, I'm going to show you why the I-95 corridor is the single most dangerous stretch of real estate in America tomorrow, and why the timing of your day could be the most important decision you make all week. And if you stay all the way to the end, I have got the long-range picture that actually has some good news in it, real good news, and it is worth hanging around for. Here's where things stand right now. This storm is not theoretical anymore. It is on the radar. It is deepening fast. And it is already throwing punches across a massive chunk of the country. That low started the day around 990 millibars over Iowa and Illinois. And it has been bombing out all afternoon, dropping toward 979 as it charges northeast into Michigan tonight. Check out the alert map right now, and it tells the whole story. Blizzard warnings stacked across the Midwest. Wind advisories stretching from the plains down through Oklahoma and Texas. Freeze warnings in the south, where folks already started planting after last week's 90-degree warmth. And severe weather threats from Michigan all the way to the Gulf Coast. All of those alerts, all of those wildly different weather types, all from the same single low pressure system, and it is nowhere near done. Let us start up north, because for a lot of communities in the upper Midwest, the worst is either already here or just a few hours away. Snowfall rates across the upper peninsula of Michigan and northern Wisconsin are hitting 1 to 2 inches per hour right now, with that low cranking up northerly winds over 50 to 60 miles per hour. Minneapolis is at 22 degrees with visibility near zero. The Minnesota governor has already activated the National Guard to help with rescues, and hundreds of flights at MSP have been canceled. Green Bay at 25, Milwaukee looking at half a foot to a foot of snow. Marquette and the UP potentially hitting 2 feet or more before this thing finally winds down. Snow drifts in the hardest hit areas could reach 5 or 6 feet, and that is not a typo. That is what you get when 2+ feet of snow combines with sustained 60 miles per hour winds for hours on end. Chicago at 42 degrees is going to flip from rain to snow tonight, and by tomorrow morning that snow shield extends all the way south through Indiana, Ohio, and into parts of Kentucky and West Virginia. So, if you figured you were in the clear, because you are not in Wisconsin. Take another look at the map. The back-end snow squalls from this system are going to surprise some communities that were not even in the main forecast. And here's the thing about back-end squalls if you happen to be parked under one of those snow bands for more than an hour. You can pick up several inches in a place that only had a dusting in the forecast. The bottom line for the blizzard zone is this: if the authorities in your area are telling you not to travel, that advice was earned the hard way. Roads in these conditions can flip from manageable to life-threatening in under 10 minutes. Before we move on, drop your exact city in the comments right now and tell me what it looks like outside your window, because I personally respond to every single one with a breakdown for your specific area. Indiana and Ohio. I want you to hear this specifically. Your local forecast may only show a few inches or even a light dusting. But if one of those back-end squall bands sets up over your area for an extended period, you are looking at a completely different situation than what the map shows. That hit-or-miss nature of back-end squalls is one of the more frustrating aspects of this system. For forecasters, you can be under a wall of blowing snow while the town 10 miles away is seeing patches of sunshine. Now let us shift to the severe weather side, because today already has its own serious threat that is getting way less attention than it deserves. The Storm Prediction Center has a Level 3 enhanced risk across the Mississippi Valley right now from southern Illinois down through Greenville. Mississippi in a second enhanced risk zone down through Dothan, Troy, Montgomery, and Columbus. Alabama. The highest tornado threat this evening is concentrated right through the Mississippi Delta region, and anybody in that corridor who was planning on going to bed early tonight needs to rethink that. Memphis, Paducah, and Nashville are all squarely in the zone for tonight's squall line, and the fact that this hits during the overnight hours means a lot of families in those communities are going to be dealing with warnings while they are sound asleep. If you are in any of those cities, please do not put your phone on Do Not Disturb tonight. Set it so that emergency weather alerts break through, because that extra few minutes of warning time can be the entire difference between getting to shelter and not making it. The squall line racing through Tennessee and Kentucky tonight is going to produce hurricane-force wind gusts. This is a structured, organized line of storms with a very nasty wind profile, not just a band of heavy rain. By around midnight, that line crosses into Alabama and Kentucky, and then through the very early Monday hours, it keeps marching east into Ohio, eastern Kentucky, and the Cumberland Plateau, still producing damaging winds and embedded tornadoes. Anybody in the deep south tonight, Huntsville, Birmingham, Florence, Dothan, the nocturnal tornado threat is absolutely real, and it runs all the way until sunrise. Down in the Carolinas today, do not sleep on your own risk either. There is enough spin over this region that isolated tornadoes are possible this evening south of Interstate 40. For folks in Anderson County and Pickens County in the upstate of South Carolina, for communities like Lincolnton, Benson, and Whitsett in the Carolina Piedmont today is already a watch and be ready day, and Monday is going to be your main event. The Savannah, Georgia area, and the Georgia coastline need to be watching both tonight and tomorrow closely. Supercells firing in the prefrontal environment can track in unpredictable directions, and that coastline has a favorable setup for discrete storm activity. If you are in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, or Alabama, your city, in the comments right now, because I am watching all of those areas closely, and I want to make sure you have the most up-to-date picture for your exact location. All right, now here's the part of this forecast that has meteorologists all over the country leaning forward in their chairs, and it is the reason I opened with the I-95 corridor at the very top of this video. Monday is the real deal for the East Coast, and I want to be crystal clear. I say that knowing full well that today is already serious. Monday has a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk for severe weather in place from Washington, D.C. all the way down to Raleigh, Fayetteville, Richmond, Florence, South Carolina, and into the suburbs of Charlotte, Greensboro, and Columbia. It is genuinely rare, and I mean genuinely rare, to see a higher severe weather risk in the Mid-Atlantic than you see in Dixie Alley. And yet here we are on Monday with all of the ingredients stacking up over the eastern seaboard in a way that most forecasters have not seen in years. The biggest threat on Monday is going to be the wind. 80-mile-per-hour straight-line gusts are not out of the question in the worst of it. And the Storm Prediction Center is treating widespread damaging winds across that D.C. to Florence corridor as essentially a given. The single most important thing any family in the Deep South can do tonight before going to bed is this walk through the house. Find your interior shelter spot, a bathroom, a hallway, the lowest floor with no exterior walls, and make sure every member of the household knows where it is without having to think. Tornadoes after dark are among the deadliest precisely because reaction time collapses. You go from asleep to needing to be in your shelter spot in under 2 minutes. And that is only possible if you already know the plan. Now, this is the 5-minute moment I told you about at the top. And I am going to explain it the way you would explain it to a neighbor over the back fence. Think of I-95 from Florence, South Carolina up through Fayetteville, Raleigh, Richmond, and into Washington, D.C. as a long conveyor belt of warm, unstable air. And on Monday afternoon, a cold front loaded with more wind energy than most storms produce is going to slam straight into it. The longer the sun shines on that corridor Monday morning before the front arrives, the more unstable and more explosive the atmosphere gets, and right now the timing has backed off a little bit, which means more morning sunshine, which means a more loaded environment by the time those storms fire in the afternoon. More heating equals more fuel equals stronger storms, and stronger storms rolling up I-95 during the afternoon rush hour is about as bad a combination as you can put on a weather map. The highest tornado threat on Monday, and the models have been rock solid on this for days, is going to be concentrated from Fayetteville up through Raleigh and along the I-95 corridor into Richmond. This is where the potential for violent tornadoes exists, not just the quick spin-ups embedded in a squall line, and a violent tornado in a fast-moving storm environment is one of the most dangerous combinations in severe weather because your warning time is measured in seconds, not minutes. The threat for Monday also starts earlier than most people expect by around 10 in the morning. Individual rotating storms are expected to fire up in eastern North Carolina, the PD region of South Carolina, and into eastern Virginia. Those early cells are going to have a more pristine environment to work with than the ones forming later in the main squall line, which means a higher ceiling for tornado intensity even though they are popping at breakfast time. I genuinely think school systems across eastern North Carolina, eastern South Carolina, and Virginia should cancel. Monday, this is not a late afternoon threat. It starts in the morning commute window. Charlotte, Greensboro, Columbia. Your peak window is roughly 1 p.m. through late afternoon as that cold front blasts east. By early evening, the line is working into Raleigh's strong straight-line winds, embedded tornadoes, the whole 9 yards. That squall line stretches from Pennsylvania and parts of New York all the way down to Tampa on the Florida West Coast if you're east of the Appalachians tomorrow. You are in this storm's reach. Wilmington, Jacksonville, and the Cape Fear region of North Carolina are right in the corridor where those early prefrontal cells are most likely to track. And the proximity to the coast means there is additional moisture available to fuel those storms as they develop. Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, the Hampton Roads area has a setup on Monday afternoon that I want you to take very seriously. Because the combination of a slow eroding warm sector and the approaching squall line creates a prolonged window where tornado-producing storms are possible. Now, I mentioned a sting jet in the hook, and I want to explain what that actually means for you, because it is not just a cool-sounding weather term. A sting jet is a descending punch of very high-speed air that forms in the dry slot behind a deep cyclone. Like this one, it gets its name because it tends to sting communities with wind gusts that exceed what even the local forecasters are calling for. For Philly, South Jersey, New York, and into Connecticut tomorrow night. The sting jet means your wind gusts could significantly overshoot the numbers in your local forecast. And that is when you get the surprising power outages and tree damage that people say they did not see coming. If you are in the coastal Northeast, just assume the wind situation Monday night is going to be worse than advertised and plan accordingly. Now, let us talk about what follows Monday's storm, because the cold air behind this system is going to feel like a punch in the gut for anyone who got lulled into thinking spring was here to stay. By Tuesday morning, St. Patrick's Day wind chills across the upper Midwest are sitting below zero, and single-digit actual temperatures are possible as far south as Missouri. Below freezing temperatures push deep into Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia by Tuesday, and if you planted anything early because it felt like April last week, you need to protect it tonight. Washington, D.C. is at 58 degrees today by Tuesday morning. That same city is in the mid-30s with a wind chill that feels like January. Nashville at 64. Atlanta at 68. Both of those cities are going to feel a 30-plus degree temperature drop in less than 36 hours. And that is the kind of swing that bursts pipes, kills early spring plants overnight, and catches people completely flat-footed. And here is the thing about St. Patrick's Day. This year, the tradition of celebrating outdoors in your green is going to collide head first with temperatures that have no business being at these levels in mid-March. So if you have plans to be outside, please have a backup. Frostbite can develop on exposed skin in as little as 30 minutes, and the wind chills the upper Midwest is dealing with on Tuesday. Bundle up. Cover your skin. And please go knock on your older neighbor's door and make sure they are squared away. Now complete 180, because while all of that cold and severe weather is grinding through the eastern half of the country, the western states are living in what looks like a different season entirely. The overall wind threat from this system is going to affect basically everyone east of the Rockies in some form. The Storm Prediction Center is showing at least 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts across that entire region, and that alone is enough to cause widespread power outages. Phoenix hit 105 degrees today, and that is not just hot. That is a record that was not supposed to be breakable in mid-March, being broken by a margin that has forecasters doing double takes. Think about what it means to say the desert Southwest is running 25 to 35 degrees above average for this time of year. That is not a close-to-the-line anomaly. That is a June ridge showing up in the third week of March. Los Angeles at 88. Las Vegas at 92. Tucson at 99. San Jose at 85. The heat dome has a stranglehold on the entire western interior, and it is not loosening up. Red flag fire warnings are in effect across Los Angeles and the desert Southwest. Right now, dry air, triple-digit heat, and gusty winds mean a small spark can become a serious wildfire in a very short window if you are in the Southwest. Please limit outdoor activity between 10 and 4 hydrate way before you feel thirsty. And check on elderly folks around you. Early season heat is extra dangerous because nobody's body has adjusted to it yet. The good news on the heat side, this ridge is expected to start weakening through the second half of the week. And temperatures should gradually ease back toward seasonal norms across the desert Southwest heading into the weekend. And while we are at it, Hawaii is still dealing with the Kona storm system today, with Honolulu and the Kahului area on Maui both under serious flash flood watches and mudslide danger in the mountain areas. If you have family in Hawaii, reach out and remind them that 6 inches of moving water can knock a grown person off their feet. Stay away from streams, low-lying areas, and any roadway with standing water on it. All right, here is the good news I promised you, and I want to be up front. This is genuinely good news. Not just me trying to soften the blow. Once this storm exits the country by Tuesday, a large ridge of high pressure builds and expands across the Great Basin and into the central U.S., and that ridge puts a lid on active severe weather for roughly 5 to 7 days. After the blizzard, tonight's nocturnal tornado threat, Monday's East Coast outbreak, and the Arctic blast, we are genuinely looking at a quieter stretch heading into next week. And honestly, after the week this country has had, we could all use it. Temperatures rebound through the second half of the week, and by the weekend, much of the country east of the Rockies is back to seasonable or above normal readings. One thing worth flagging in the long range, the drought monitor, is showing significant dry conditions across much of the U.S. right now. And that building ridge through late March means more sunshine and less rain exactly in the areas that are already parched. So if you're a gardener or a farmer in the southern plains or the southeast, enjoy whatever rainfall this storm brings and do not count on a follow-up anytime soon. Looking further out, there are hints of a Pacific trough bringing cooler and wetter conditions to the West Coast in the final week of March, along with mountain snow for the Cascades and Sierra Nevada, which is genuinely welcome news for snowpack and water supplies. Bottom line on the big picture after Tuesday's polar plunge, the rest of the week is a genuine breather warmer, quieter, more spring-like, and that is a welcome change after a stretch like this. So here's the bottom line on what you actually need to do right now, and I am keeping this straight and simple. If you're in the blizzard zone, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, stay home. The roads are not safe, and the back end of this storm is exactly when people make the mistake of thinking it has calmed down enough to head out. If you are in the severe weather corridor tonight from the Mississippi Delta through Alabama and the Deep South, your alerts need to be on and loud before you go to bed, because this nocturnal tornado threat runs all the way to sunrise. I am not here to ruin your Monday. I am here to make sure you have a Tuesday. If you are on the East Coast from the Carolinas to Virginia to D.C. Monday morning is not a day to wait and see how things develop. It is a day to have your plan locked in before the sun comes up. If you are in the Southwest, this heat is historic. It is real, and it deserves the same respect you give it in July. And for everyone, everywhere. Right now, charge your phone and your backup battery tonight. Because power outages from this storm complex are going to hit multiple regions at the same time, and you do not want to be the one whose phone dies right when the warnings start dropping. Look, the folks who come through storms like this just fine are almost always the ones who knew what was coming and made a plan. And the ones who get caught out are the ones who figured it would not be as bad as everybody was saying, and every single time, without fail. The storm does not care about that. Here is a way to think about the pattern shift that is coming after Tuesday. The same ridge that has been baking Phoenix at record temperatures is about to become your friend east of the Rockies. It shifts east and brings that warmth with it, just at a more reasonable level. So by the time you are getting into midweek and looking ahead to the following weekend, the forecast for much of the central and eastern U.S. is going to look like the kind of spring weather that makes people want to be outside, and after the week we have all just been through. That is exactly what the doctor ordered. So, do me a solid right now if you know somebody in Raleigh, Columbia, Richmond, Fayetteville, Greensboro, Savannah, or anywhere along that East Coast corridor. Send them this video. Because a heads up from someone they trust hits different than a push notification they are going to swipe away. And one more thing before I let you go, drop your city and your zip code in the comments below. And I will do my best to get back to you with the most current and specific breakdown for your exact neighborhood. Because the difference of 20 miles in a setup like this can be the difference between a close call and a direct hit. We are going to be live and tracking every single development tonight's nocturnal threat in the Deep South, Monday's East Coast outbreak, and the Arctic blast through Tuesday, so make sure notifications are on. Stay safe out there, stay smart, and take care of the people around you. God bless, and we will see you in the next one.